On September 3rd, 2020, Nintendo announced that they were going to be releasing Super Mario 3D All-Stars, which would include 3 classic Mario games: Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy. Now that sounds amazing if I just stopped right there, right? That sounds pretty cool. The fact that if you had a Nintendo Switch, you could buy a collection of these 3 games and own them forever. That's cool. But you see, Nintendo is not a very cool company. So they decided to do some things that people didn't like. And the first thing was that this was going to be a time-limited release. So what does that mean? Well, the collection was going to be released very soon after it was announced. So September 18th, 2020, this thing is coming out digitally and physically. However, Nintendo also said that it's only going to be available until March 31st, 2021. So basically, for a little more than 6 months, you have a chance to get this collection of 3 games that a lot of people love, but that's it. On March 31st, 2021, digital sales of this collection will cease. Physical copies will be discontinued in terms of producing them. So if you want to get them, you're going to have to find them from a secondhand reseller or something like that, because once that date comes, that's the end of this. So that left a lot of gamers puzzled, because that's not typically how things are done, right? Like when you release a game, like you should be able to buy it whenever you want, right? And then maybe 5 years later, it'll be on sale for a huge discount, right? But not this time. No. For some reason, they're going to sell this thing to you only for 6 months and a couple of days. That's the only time it's going to be on sale. Now, from Nintendo's perspective, they're saying, well, you know, this is to celebrate the 35th anniversary of Super Mario. Doug Bowser, who was the head of Nintendo of America at the time, said this was a unique way to celebrate the anniversary. Yeah, it really is unique. I mean, it makes people wonder what you're doing here. I mean, most people can kind of figure out what you're doing, because by creating artificial scarcity, because you're only going to have this on sale for 6 months, you make a lot of people buy the collection who probably wouldn't have bought it immediately. They probably would have waited until later for a sale or something like that, but they had to fork over the cash immediately because this thing is only on sale for 6 months. That is kind of smart on Nintendo's part, because they could rake in a whole bunch of cash real fast, right? Yeah, but you're hurting your goodwill with your customers, right? I mean, honestly, at this point, everybody knows how greedy Nintendo is, and they're just so blatantly open about it, but it's kind of like you're punishing the Super Mario fans. Come on, yo. It's like, I don't know, somewhere along the way, Nintendo became the villain. And this is an example of one of the cases where Nintendo's doing some shady stuff. So, time-limited release. You gotta fork over $60, by the way. $60 for these 3 games. Okay, Super Mario 64 came out on the Nintendo 64 many years before this collection was released. You're talking about in the 90s, right? Then you had Super Mario Sunshine, which came out for the GameCube, early 2000s. And then you had Super Mario Galaxy, also early 2000s. And this is coming out in 2020. A long time after these games were released originally. $60 for those 3 games, huh? You know, I could almost forgive the time-limited release if they had sold this for like, I don't know, 15, 20 bucks or something. You know, something affordable, right? $60, that is the standard price of a brand new Nintendo Switch game. Like if you wanted to buy Super Mario Odyssey, for example, the price for that is $60. That's a brand new Switch game. But this is not a brand new Switch game. I mean, it is for the Switch, but these 3 games came out an eternity ago. And you're selling it for $60. And people might say, well, there are 3 games in there. Yeah, 3 really old games. And it's like, Super Mario 64 actually was available on the DS as well. They had Super Mario 64 DS. And it's like, why should we pay such an exorbitant price when these things are not even remakes? You know, it's not like, oh, all of a sudden we're getting a brand new version of this game. That would have been pretty cool. Imagine if they took Super Mario 64 and put it in the engine that created Super Mario Odyssey. Now that would be something. You know, that would be worth $60. But, you know, they want you to pay $60 for these really old games. And of course, a lot of people did, because this was their chance to get a piece of their childhood on a tiny little Nintendo Switch game card that they can keep forever. But when you do stuff like this, it's sort of hurting a lot of people, because let's say they just didn't want to spend $60 during that 6-month period for this collection of games. You know, they would rather spend their $60 on, you know, some other game that's brand new, that didn't come out so many years ago. And then they missed their opportunity. And if they want to play it now, it's going to be tough to get, because you're going to have to pay way more than $60 after March 31st, 2021. And that's the problem. Scalpers, resellers, they knew they could buy these games, and the physical copies of this collection sold out at many retailers very quickly, obviously. And you could just sell them for whatever on the used market, because people wanted it and they couldn't get it physically. See, and Nintendo is encouraging that kind of behavior. It's a shame. So the other thing is, initially when there were rumors that this collection was going to be released for the Switch, they were saying it was going to be 4 games. It was reported by at least one outlet that it was going to be the 3 games that eventually wound up in the collection, plus Super Mario Galaxy 2. And that's what a lot of people wanted, because people love the Galaxy games. Well, it turns out you're not getting Galaxy 2, people. Now, why is that? Why is that? Well, because at this point in time, we already know later on when the Nintendo Switch 2 comes out, they release a combo pack. Nintendo puts out Super Mario Galaxy, reselling it again. It was already in the 3D All-Stars collection. Now they put it in this combo pack with Super Mario Galaxy 2, and they sell it for $70, okay, last year. Oh, man. So now they're really ripping people off. So you see, that was another reason why people were like, why are they doing this time-limited release? So they can sell you the games again. Or they can make you, well, not make you, but persuade you to sign up for a Nintendo Switch Online subscription where you can play Super Mario 64 on the N64 Classics app on the Switch. Or you can play Super Mario Sunshine if you have a Nintendo Switch 2 in the future, because they are going to add that to the GameCube Classics collection. And now, because of this combo pack, you can play Super Mario Galaxy 2. If you want the game by itself, they're selling it for $40 digitally. And Super Mario Galaxy 1 is also being sold for $40 digitally. So this is really just about ripping people off. It's like, you know, when they said we're not selling this after March 31st, 2021, it's because they want to find other ways to get money from you for these exact same games again. It's really messed up. Really messed up. But to this day, if you want this collection, you're going to have to pay quite a bit of money for it. You know, it's not like today's games, people get mad when it's $80 or $70. You're probably gonna have to pay more than that if you want a copy of Nintendo's brilliant limited release Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection. What a shame.